and the location is everywhere throughout Tippecanoe County. We're doing this both physically and remotely. First item on the agenda is the roll call. I'll go ahead and call off names. Just announce if you're here, please. Me, yes. Tracy Brown.
Here.
Jackson Bogan.
Here.
Ron Campbell. Peter Bunder.
I'm here.
Gary Henriott.
That's me, John.
Well, Gary, you're looking much better these days. Mike Gibson.
Here.
Shane Spears.
Here and present.
All right. And Stuart Klein. Stu?
Here.
All right, got it. All righty, we do have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 10th, 2020 meeting. I'll move for approval of the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Any questions, corrections, changes? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed. Next item on the agenda is a resolution, T 2020-8, resolution to amend the fiscal year 2020-2024 Transportation Improvement Program. And this will be Sally.
I'll go ahead and turn it over to Doug.
And she'll turn it over to Doug.
Good afternoon. In your packet, you should have received the staff report. It's fairly large and long. It's one of the largest ones we've received from NDOT in a long time. 31 projects are involved, and pretty much all of them are new, except for a few. To begin with, there are 7 projects that we will be adding additional funds for preliminary engineering. They are located on the Hoosier Heartland. The reason why they're adding those funds is so a engineering firm can do the NEPA work. And these projects are thin deck overlays. Work will be beginning here this fiscal year. I believe the projects are on a February letting. The next 2 projects are on State Road 225, and they involve the Wabash River Bridge. Currently, there is a project in the tip, and it is provisional. The NDOT Central Office has approved the funding and rehabilitation and repair work, and subsequently has given the project a new DES number. So we're basically removing the old one and putting the new one in. There are 5 new projects on US 52. 3 are deck overlays or thin deck overlays, and they're located on the Norfolk Southern rail line, which is just by Tate and Lyle, and then the Wabash River bridges. And then we also have a bridge replacement superstructure project over the Gaylord Branch. And then the last project on 52 is adding auxiliary lanes on the south side of Lafayette to the south, beginning at County Road 400 South. There are actually 14 new projects in this request. They're located on I-65. And they involve overlays, which are on the Norfolk and Southern, or over the Norfolk and Southern, just south of the State Road 38 interchange. The bridges at the State Road 26 and 38 interchanges. We also have a thin deck overlay on the north and south bridges over the Wildcat Creek. 5 bridge decks will be replaced, including the ones over the CSX, North 9th Street and Burnett Creek, the north-southbound bridges over Prophets Rock Road, and then the County Road 725 North Bridge over I-65. Then we also have one more on I-65, and that is a pipelining construction project located on the southeastern part of the county. There are 3 new district-wide projects. The first is adding center and edge striping. Construction is in fiscal year 2022. A bridge maintenance project, 2022 again, and then another district-wide signal modernization project, which will be this fiscal year. 2 intersections or 2 traffic signals in the county will be modernized, and one is on State Road 225, the Wabash River Bridge, and the other one is at Sagamore Parkway in Cumberland. It should be noted that there is a project in the TIP that currently shows this intersection as being modernized. That intersection will be moved to this project. The project in the TIP that's currently shown still has one intersection up being modernized, and that's the one at 52 and Brady Lane. The Technical Transportation Committee did review this request at their September 16th meeting and recommended approval, and staff is also asking for your approval. I know it's fairly large, and I went through it fairly quickly. All the details are in the staff report. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
All right, any questions for Doug?
And then Mayor, if there are no, at the point where there are no questions, then we'll need to wait a minute to see if we get any public comment.
All righty. Once again, any questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Any public comment?
I'm timing for 1 minute to see if any come in on YouTube or Facebook chat.
All righty.
Doug, this is where the music should go.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No singing allowed. Stop.
I was thinking maybe the Jeopardy tune.
That's ominous.
Is that the one?
Yeah, we can hear it.
He looks like a bad Santa Claus, doesn't he?
Is that working?
Daryl, we appreciate the effort.
Okay, a minute has passed, so we'll see if Aria has had any chat come in.
I have not. I don't think Tim has either here.
Okay,
All right. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment session. Now back to resolution 2020-08, a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2020-2024 transportation improvement program. I'll entertain a motion. We do the improvements.
So moved.
So move, Peter Funder.
Second, Jackson.
Okay, motioned and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Great, thank you.
All right, good stuff. Thank you so much, Doug. Next is the 2020 MPO conference. And this would be a YouTube playlist. What?
well, I just wanted to report that on our technical end, everything went very well. I was pleased with how GoToWebinar worked. Our speakers did a really nice job, and thanks to the two mayors and Tracy for their welcoming presentation and putting some meat into it regarding the joint climate plan that's being started. I think the content was meaty. I did receive some complimentary emails when it was over, so I think it went all right, but it was no substitute for being here together in Lafayette, which we hope to be doing next October.
Definitely. All righty. Thanks so much, Sal. Any questions for Sally? All right. Next is the APC Progress Report. Good. Are you with me?
So the first item is the thoroughfare plan update, and that'll be Tim.
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of been an ongoing project for us. And the most recent update is that at our September CPC meeting, we gave the committee a presentation and we asked them for some feedback. And what we were specifically looking for in terms of feedback is what items the community was interested in us looking at and creating standards for in the plan. So we got some pretty good recommendations from the community about some items to include in the plan, as well as some items for further discussion that we're not sure if we can quite include in the plan yet or not, but that may spawn some other efforts to work on some of those other transportation related items. We'll have to see where that goes, but we're putting together a staff report for that, which will go to the technical committee later this month to kind of get some of their feedback on the recommendations that we got from the CPC. And so that's progressing nicely, and we're hoping pretty soon we can take it out to the development community to get their input on it, and then continue to move this forward so that we can get this update official and start to get it to a point where it's able to be used and is effective and has updated our old plan, which is in great need of updating. Are there any questions?
All righty. Thanks, Tim. The 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan survey results.
Yeah,
Is that
so
all
this is also me.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is another effort that we've been conducting as part of our public participation for our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We had initially planned to do a combination of gathering feedback via online methods, social media and such, and doing some in-person events. Obviously, the in-person events are not possible. So because of that, we've kind of shifted our focus to what information we can get online. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through some surveys. So we recently got some results from the first survey we did. And there's a handout in your packet about this. It's titled MTP Survey Results Update. And so what that is that there are 9 different goals that we have listed there. And we asked users or people who took the survey to say how important each one of these goals was to them on a scale ranging from very important all the way down to not important. And then depending on their responses, that gave a corresponding score, which is the bar chart that you see right below that, showing what the scores were. And then if you were to rank them by score, the most important goal by the survey was improving safety for all users, whereas the least important was improving delivery of freight and goods. And then all the other goals fell somewhere in between. So what we're looking at with this is kind of seeing what really is important to the community in the long term. We had really great response rate. We had 591 respondents, so we just fell short of 600, which we thought was very good. We were very pleased with the participation we got, and we're going to now continue with a follow-up survey that's going to kind of dive a little deeper into how we can work to accomplish some of these goals and what kind of practical steps and recommendations we can take to meet them. So that's going to be our next survey that we're going to push out. And so we'll have to see what we get from that, and we will include the results in the plan, and we will report them, of course, to you guys as well as technical committee once they are available.
Excellent. Next is the e-scooter operations and ADA committee update.
So this one's also me. So
And
this
again.
is some, yeah. So this is the next handout in the packet. It's titled e-scooter operations and ADA committee update. So this is something that I just kind of wanted to let you guys know about. I'm not sure if this board is really aware of the work that's going on with this committee, but what it is that it's a committee that kind of really started back in March of last year when the Federal Highway Administration, specifically Ken Woodruff, decided to put together a meeting about e-scooters and ADA related issues. And that meeting included representatives from the industry. So some of the providers, Bird, Lime, and Spin, I believe, were the ones that were there. If I remember correctly, there might have been one more. And then there were also some government folks such as myself and some people from some advocacy groups attended as well. And then fast forward to last year's MPO conference, And some of the same people that were at that meeting kind of proposed the idea of putting together a committee with the different MPOs to talk about some of these issues and be a resource for sharing information and creating items for areas that might be interested in having these types of micromobility options come to their communities. So that's what we did. We put together a committee and we had our first meeting in March of this year. We are meeting quarterly, so we've had 3 meetings with our next one due in a couple more months. And so if you look on the handout there are kind of 3 big committee projects that we've been working on. The first one is an ideas table, which I'll go into a little bit of more detail about later. We're also working on a micromobility ordinance development checklist. So what that would be is if a locality gets some interest from a provider and they're approached and they say, okay, this is something that we're okay with having in our community, but now we need to write an ordinance to regulate it. Well, what sort of items would be best practices to include in that? That's what the checklist seeks to provide guidance on. And then the last item is some data collection and standardization. So especially one thing that we're working on right now with that is how e-scooters are coded in crash reports. That has been a pretty big issue around the state. And so we're kind of looking into what we can do about that. And we're in communication with NDOT and Federal Highway and law enforcement and all the players that are involved in that. So then the last thing on the sheet there is just an excerpt from the ideas table. So what this is something that kind of gives a few different ways that committee members have come up with to incentivize good behavior and make sure that, especially when users of the e-scooters or other micromobility devices are done with their trip, that they put them in an appropriate place, that they are parking them in such a way that they don't block a sidewalk or an ADA ramp or something like that that would really be a big hindrance to persons with mobility challenges. And so there's a couple different example ideas there that I pulled from the table. I do have the whole table available if anyone's interested. And then in addition to the ideas, they're kind of ranked by how easy or how difficult they are to implement, how much it would cost to implement these items, what the time frame would be, so how long it would take to implement them, and then who would be responsible for implementing them. So that's just kind of something that's been an ongoing effort that we've been involved in. So I wanted to just let everyone know that that is something that's going on. And although currently it's maybe not quite as relevant here as it would have been before the pandemic, it's something we're still looking at, and we are kind of anticipating, of course, that the scooters will come back. One small item of note that I heard from Bloomington is that down there they were almost at pre-COVID levels of ridership, even in spite of the pandemic. So it's something that's certainly definitely still ongoing throughout the state, and we're happy to be a part of it. And we hope to continue to get some good information from that and be able to share it around with our colleagues in the state. So yeah, it's something that's very interesting, and I'll take any questions about that if there are any.
Well, now the scooters are back on campus, not necessarily in the same density that they were last year, but they're around. Any other questions for Tim? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the Transportation Improvement Program development schedule.
And that's going to be for me. Every other year, we develop a new transportation improvement program. And yes, it's that time of the year where we need to start looking at it and developing a new document. The schedule that is in your packet is based on and driven by the development of NDOT's STIP, and that there is one important date that's listed on there in which they ask all MPOs to submit their draft document, and that is on February 15th. So even though, yes, we're in the early part of October, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the document needs to be drafted in order to us have that ready to be sent to them by the 15th. We have always been successfully submitting our draft documents on time and usually are the first or second ones to do it. The actual kickoff to this begins in several weeks. We will be sending out project programming sheets to all the engineers and to representatives of the towns and ask that they fill that out and include projects that they need federal funds for and when they need federal funds. And we also ask that the larger locally funded projects are included. The TIP is a great document to reference to see what major projects are occurring in the area. We include not only NDOT projects, all local projects, city bus projects, and airport projects. So it's a good tool. When we receive the lists back from the engineers, and we need those back by October 4th, I have a short turnaround time because our participation and public involvement starts on December 9th, where we will present the information to our Citizen Participation Committee. Looking down at the other deadlines or target dates, on January 20th at that tech committee, we will be looking at all of the requests and prioritizing and constraining those. Very important and crucial date. And then of course, if you see January 20th to February 15th, that doesn't give me much time to finish the document, but it has been done for the past, I don't know how many years. So fairly simple and straightforward to do. We're hoping to have all this wrapped up by early May, and at that time, present the draft document to this board for possible adoption. Any questions?
Questions for Doug? All right, thanks so much,
Doug,
buddy. What? Can't hear.
Can I sneak my question in? Here comes my question. Doug, one of the concerns in my district is River Road, and so 231 going on to the interstate. Where in this planning process do you get to say that's a good idea?
So let me understand correctly. The individual project, River Road. Can you give me a better description of the project?
Sure. River Road should get skinnier. In order for River Road to get skinnier, 231 has to go to the interstate. So how do we talk about funding that development, the research to get the interstate connection to 231?
That's a good question. The actually last year, or the fiscal year, we allocated, I believe it was $100,000 to a study to look at that, extending US 231 from 52, where the current intersection is, up to the interstate. And that is, I believe, now a state project, which they are going to, or NDOT going to actually take the lead on that. I have not heard of any specific details yet, but we allocated our federal funds to that study.
We will be partners with NDOT Crawfordsville in developing that corridor study with a consulting firm likely. And Shane is on by phone. If he has any updates, he could maybe provide that to you.
Yeah, sure. So where we're at with that process is we're getting ready to post it out to the consulting world to get a consultant assigned to the study. But one thing that we're working with central office on right now is, while the study I think will help us determine the right location for a new interchange, we're going to run into the issue of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. And we're not expecting traffic counts to show anything that a new interchange is going to be needed, so to speak, if that makes sense. So there's going to become a lot of local interest that's going to have to drive, hey, we want an interchange here, and what's that mean and why? And so we're getting guidance from central office now on how do we put this in a document to have that studied, because frankly, we're not thinking the traffic shows that interchange is going to be warranted.
What could I do, or what could this development schedule do to improve public interest in the project?
Yeah, so I think once we get that consultant on board, then we'll have a schedule developed where we'll get public input, and that'll be able to drive some of that. But frankly, it'll be us around this table and obviously other public partners that help drive that decision and honestly help determine how's it going to get funded.
Anything else, Peter? I couldn't hear your last comment.
I was saying thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next is the 2020 annual listing of projects. I assume Doug?
Yes, this is a project that I enjoy doing every year, and I believe the first one that was done was back in 2006. Every year it grows and grows, and a matter of fact, the one that was just recently finished is the largest that I've ever put together. It is up and available on the APC website. The document itself, huge one. I do have paper copies if anybody would like one, please let me know. The requirement for this document actually can be found in the Fast Transportation Act, and it requires MPOs to put this report together, basically to report on our federal funds and the obligation of those federal funds. And it has to be done by September 30th. We posted it about mid-September, so we had plenty of time before it was actually required. The document itself contains a bunch of information. Not only does it include projects that are federally funded, but we also include all local projects that just use local funds. About every month or so, I look or listen in or not, and then also read the Board of Works minutes, the County Commissioner minutes. And if there's any discussion or mention of projects, I actually make notes of that and then include it in this report. So thank you for having those detailed minutes. Very appreciative. At the beginning, we have some introductory information, kind of get the reader, let them know what the process is, what it's about. We also have master tables of both NDOT projects and our local projects. And then we have the meat of the document has these individual project sheets, which contain all the information about the project, an aerial photo showing the location where it's at, and then also photographs of the project, kind of give you an idea of what it actually looks like. And those are for all projects. At the end of the document, we have a completed section, which we give information that for those projects that have been previously shown in the report that have been completed. And we try to include in there both before and after pictures. It's a great document that shows where all of our funding has been going to, whether it be state projects, local projects, transit projects. Once again, it is posted on our APC webpage, and if you would like a paper copy, I have made several. I'd be more than happy to give you one. Any questions?
One other item of specificity is that we do it every year because the first part of the document indicates and lists all the projects for which federal funds were obligated in that fiscal year. And the second part indicates all those projects that were completed in that fiscal year. It's not a compilation of necessarily all ongoing projects. It's those that were begun in that fiscal year and those that were completed in that fiscal year. So that's why we do it every year.
All righty. Any questions for Doug or Sally? Okay, off we go. Next is the NDOT rail plan update. Who's got that?
I have that. And on September 28th, NDOT sent out a notice that they are updating their state rail plan. And the last one that was done was in 2017. I did look on their website earlier this morning and did not see anything yet. But one thing that they will be doing will be an online survey, and that will be available to the general public in early fall. They will have committee meetings and then specific one-on-one interviews. So we'll probably include that information later on when more becomes available. Sally, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm assuming, Doug, that it also includes passenger rail as well as freight rail.
It does include, it states on here, the future of passenger and freight rail development. So yes, both.
I'm not sure exactly how much interest there is on the part of NDOT to sort of reopen the issue of passenger rail. But we do have sort of a local advocate for that, and that's that Representative Sharon Nagel is on the Midwest, is Indiana's representative for the Midwest Passenger Rail Committee, and she has become a huge passenger rail advocate. So if we ever need to have an advocate for our issues about passenger rail, I think she would be a good place to start.
All right, very good. Next item is the NDOT 18-month letting list, and that's always good.
Yes, matter of fact, if you look at the list and compared it to the previous month, I think you only noticed that the dates have changed. It's basically a carbon copy. It was fairly easy to put together. But you will notice that on the list, there are 8 projects that were on NDOT's bid letting that occurred yesterday. And those are on the Hoosier Heartland and are located at the very far northeastern part of the county. I did look at the bid letting results, and while they didn't award the bid yet, there were 5 bidders. The engineer's estimate for all these projects was $1.27 million. The low bid was from Ram Construction out of Michigan at $1.06 million. And it's quite interesting comparing that bid to the others. Those all ranged from 1.44 to 1.59 million, so a big difference. But next month's report, we will have the specific information for that bid letting. Next month in November, we have 6 projects. Most of those are on I-65 bridge paintings. We do have a superstructure replacement project on State Road 25 with Big Shawnee Creek. That's in the southwest part of the county. We have a massive number of projects on the December letting, and some of those are on I-65. It shows a bridge deck replacement. By understanding that they're actually going to be not only replacement but widening, and that is at the 43 interchange and then at Burnett Creek. Also on the December letting is a State Road 28 project, a structural overlay, and I believe that is the major big reconstruction project. Then following month in January, we have 3 local projects: Lindbergh Road, North River Road, and Park East Boulevard. And if everything goes well and they stay on these bid lettings, we will then have all of our federal funds obligated in one swoop. Looking further down the list, the last local project shown is the Sagamore Parkway Trail, and that is on a November 2021 letting. Any questions?
Questions for Doug? All right, thanks so much, buddy. We all have the attachment documents indicators, and other than that, is there any other business?
There's none from me, but we should leave a minute for general public comment if there is any.
Yep, that's my next item. Any citizens comment?
I've started the clock. We're at the 1 minute mark.
All righty, it sounds like there is no citizen comment. Anything else for the meeting today?
Not from me.
All right, hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Under.
motion and a second, we are adjourned. Thank you all so very much. Have a great weekend.